Hello.
Goodness me.
There you go. This is my new look. So we are in Melbourne.
Amazing.
I know. How you been? So I'm sure you've got one of these. Am I right?
I have many of those, and they're all floral.
So how have you been, darling? So what we gonna hear today? What we gonna watch today?
Yeah, so I'm going to play some piano today. I am covering a song by Cartel, and it is called Save Us.
Save us. There you go. So whenever you're ready, please.
Save us from this lockdown.
There you go. They're all locked down here in Melbourne. I know. Whenever, please.
All right, thank you.
Erik, hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing really well. How are you? I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm in my studio and life is pretty good.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm so glad I'm having you here today on my show. So would you like to say hi to those who are watching us now and later?
Yeah. Welcome everybody. I'm so glad you could come out to join us and come to see me in my studio in Massachusetts. And I look forward to showing you around and showing you some of my work.
Perfect. So I've got lots of questions here for you, and then yeah. So I'll start. So my very first question is about the size of your sculptures. Most of the sculptures you've made are very large in size, and they are much like a human size. So talk to me about that, please.
So this is a great place to start. I actually have I have very specific sizes that I work with. So most of the sculptures that you see on my Instagram feed, most of them are 1/3 scale. So it's a 1/3 scale figure is about yay high, like sort of something like this, right? So that's 1/3, and I am extremely precise with my measurements. So if a model is 5'2", this is going to be 1/3 of that. I like to measure. I'm really into the math side of art, and I love to talk about math. So the small ones that if people see on my feed me doing like what I call quick sketch, doing quick sketch with live models, those are usually 1/6 scale. So a 6, so it's half of the 1/3 basically. And those ones are about sort of this big. And there's tons of those. Those are the ones that are like all over the studio. I can't ever break them down, so I just kind of collect them. Other than that, I have some half scale figures. Some of the new stuff I'm working on is at half scale. And then anything that's public is usually life size. So the life size figures are what all the public monuments are. And for me, working in those different scales, I kind of see them as all sort of related. So when I'm doing quick speed sketches, they're the little tiny ones. When I'm doing a more detailed study, it's that 1/3 scale. And then when it's something that belongs in the public sphere, it's life size.
Okay. Well, when I look at your sculptures, I get a sense of power most of the characters you've sculptured. It makes me feel like they want to show their power. Could this have happened subconsciously, or could it have affected your work because you studied history? Because most of the historical figures have been...
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Did you hear my question?
Did you say power?
Power, yes.
Yeah.
And or could it have affected your work because you studied history? Because most of the historical figures have been quite like powerful figures.
So I am definitely attracted to strong, powerful characters. One of the main themes that runs through all of my work, and when I say it, I think people might see it, but if I didn't say it, they might not. But one of the main themes that runs through everything is triumph over adversity. I like stories of people overcoming obstacles. Narratives and stories, whether they're true to life or they're mythological. I like when the underdog overcomes and wins in the end. Although many of the stories have somewhat tragic endings, but that's maybe a little bit of realism creeping in there in terms of the narrative and the storytelling. But I'm definitely attracted to strong, powerful figures of all types and people overcoming.
Okay, and is it something related to because you've studied history?
I think that I did study a lot of history when I was in college, and my bachelor's degree was initially in history, even though I went back and did the equivalent of a sculpture degree afterwards, and then my master's degree in sculpture. But for me, I have a lifelong love of story. And I think even when I was studying history, I was a little bit out of place because I wasn't studying history the way a historian does. I was studying it more almost the way a comic book collector does. Right? I like the stories and being able to collect all of the information and then being able to put it all together. And so I love to read, and I like to collect things, and then, but I always kind of do my own thing with it, which is maybe why I'm not the best historian, and maybe I'm more of a storyteller. So.
That's okay. No, that's how I feel about it. Now, I want to take you back to years ago. Can you remember actually when was the first time you saw a sculptor? I would like to know about its effect on you. I would like to know exactly what happened when you decided to like study history and become a sculptor in the future, which is today.
So I think when you look back on it with hindsight, the actual decision to make to become a sculptor was in my early 20s. I had been in the Navy before. When I finished high school, I had always been on sort of the art track when I was in high school, but I just didn't know what I was doing. So I ended up, living on a ship for a while, and which was, an experience. And then when I got out of college, I kind of just sort of jumped around. And I think in a lot of ways, I didn't have the initial confidence to be in the arts. And I started, even though I was taking all kinds of classes, I started taking some drawing classes just for fun. And even though I was doing it just for fun, it very quickly made me realize, I'm actually pretty good at this, or better than I thought I was, at least. I had this sort of like fear that in college art classes, everyone's just going to be like amazing, and and I'm not going to fit in. And then I got in, and I was like, I actually do pretty good. And then I kind of went down. I was always drawn towards making things physically, but it actually, the roots of things actually go way back further. And I've spent some time on this subject because when I was a kid, I noticed when I was young that I didn't play with my toys the same way that other kids did. So like many kids growing up in the 80s, I had an enormous collection of G.I. Joe action figures. And I might still have a few of them, but that's another story. But what I used to do with them, I used to lay on I remember I have all these memories of laying on like a shag rug carpet, and I would pose the figures, and I'd spend all this time setting up like these dioramas with the characters and posing them in these action shots. And then I had a crummy camera, and I would take photographs of them and do things like that. And what I look back now is that I at a very young age, I had an interest in gesture and pose. So fast forward, 30 plus years, and well, maybe 40 years. Fast forward 40 years, and here I am. I'm still doing the same thing. I'm basically, I just play with more sophisticated action figures. They're more posable because they're made out of clay. So.
For me, the most interesting things to know is that what happened, because like the moment that you wanted to become a sculptor, is it something that I'm really interested to know as an artist?
Yeah, I think I was always, like, I describe myself as always kind of being on the art track, even though doing something professionally wasn't really something that seemed available to me. And it was just something that I did a lot of. I remember I won the sculpture award in like 7th grade for a sculpture that I did of a guy doing a wall ride on a skateboard, and got an award for it. And it was cool, and it was like nobody kind of noticed, and and it just went away. And I had an opportunity when I was in high school to go to an all art high school, and one of my art teachers advised me to do that, and I didn't know how to apply, and I didn't understand, and I was kind of a little bit lost when I was in high school. There's not, there's no blame going around there. My head was definitely in some other places, but I just didn't understand what that process was. So for me, it wasn't until I got out of the Navy and was sort of forced with having to get serious about something that it just seemed like this was like the only kind of path for me, that I would be happy doing something, you know, because I'm one of those people that just, I feel more comfortable when I'm making something.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. No, I got it. So one of the other things I noticed in your work is that you mostly don't use more than 2 or 3 colors, and you use them in a very smart way. You choose the colors of your work based on the characters. The most powerful characters are like darker, and the most subtle characters are brighter. How true is my guess in this regard?
So one of the things about my work is that the works that I show and sell are all bronze. So many of the things that you see in my studio are the clay, and the clay is a single color because I use the same clay body over and over again. And so that clay, before anyone asks, it's Le Beau Touché, made by Chavant. That's my #1 question on Instagram is what kind of clay do I use? So I'll just get it out of the way. And so that's what it is. And it's very important when sculpting that you sculpt in a solid material. Right? I'm always telling my students to avoid color if it's about form, because color distracts from form. Color ultimately trumps everything. You know, we love color more than anything out there. So if you want to sell form, you kind of can't compete with color. And so if you want it to be about the form, about the gesture, about the movement, keeping the colors very simple makes it more about those things. In addition to that, the finished works, you know, some of which you might see on my page are, if they're a little bit flatter, they're resin casts. And those resin casts I paint to look like they're bronze because I ultimately plan on getting them cast in bronze. Any of the ones that I'm showing or things that are on my website, those are all bronze. And the bronze has such a beautiful material quality. You know, you don't usually, although you can, and some people do, you paint it, you patina it instead, and the patina allows you to sort of see deep into the metal. And I love that quality. But it's kind of interesting that you bring it up because I'm actually experimenting right now with some different colors. A lot of my work for a long time has been these sort of, you know, rich, reddy browns. The one that I use the most is what's called French brown. And it's basically, it's for anyone that cares, it's ferric nitrate and liver of sulfite combinations. They give you the sort of darks and lights. And then you work that surface back and forth. But I'm very interested in some white patinas that are out there. So look in the not too distant future for me to be experimenting with some lighter colors with heavy contrast. So I'm very interested in doing some figures that are very dark on the bottom and gradually become very light, and sort of being able to play with those types of dichotomies work well into a lot of the other themes that exist in my work, because there's lots of, you know, dichotomies that are embedded in them. So
that's very interesting. Is that easy to do it, or you're just something, as you said, like you're just experimenting it right now?
Yeah, no, I you know, patina is a specialty. You know, a lot of foundries have somebody that most foundries have that's all they do is patinas, and it's definitely a sort of specialty art. A lot of the people that I know, like myself, sometimes my friends at the foundry help me out with patinas, or we'll do patinas together. Most of the time now, I'm doing them by myself on my own, and some of it's I guess it's a little bit like alchemy. It's a little bit science, a little bit magic, you know, because similar to like I think at least, you know, but similar to some ceramic glazes, you know, you can do everything in a particular way. Then you put the pot in the kiln, and most of the time it comes out pretty much like what you want. But every once in a while, there's some little different things because the process you're letting go of. And so the patina can be like that sometimes, for me at least. Sometimes I get exactly what I want. Sometimes something weird happens, and sometimes you like that, you know. But most of the part, you can tell because most of my bronzes look fairly similar that I'm a tad more conservative on the patinas than I want to be, that's why I'm trying to experiment a little these days.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So you have a lot of nude sculptures, and I think you're among your best works. The feeling I get when I look at them is freedom along with power. But you have a lot of you also made a number of sculptures that ropes are tied around them, as if they are like captivated in their own world. The only common things between your sculpture is they are nude or naked. Talk to me about that, which I found it actually is quite fascinating.
Yeah, so I see a connection between that, being bound or being held captive and freedom are two sides of a coin, right? So, one relies on it. You wouldn't have a concept of being free if you didn't have a fear of being captured. And being captured wouldn't mean anything to you if you didn't have an idea about being free. So I see those kind of things as definitely working together and being part of the same thing. A lot of my figures, one of the things that I don't want to get political in any way, but I feel very oppressed, and I think that there are many people in this world who are far more oppressed than I am in my privileged state. But even I feel it. I feel like my government holds me down. I feel like weights like sit on top of me, and those are things that I think that all of us feel. We feel like something's holding us back, something's burdening us, or something's so and we know that this isn't a new feeling because the Greeks wouldn't have written about or told stories about people like Prometheus if they didn't feel it too. Greek gods were horrible tyrants, who oppressed the people who were underneath them. That seems kind of analogous to some stuff that I feel. I don't know about anyone else, and that's just me. But that is definitely part of that. So my bound figures are definitely they're people who are in the process of overcoming. And I'll go a little bit further because I put mine in a lineage actually. So while there are several from the Greek world, the ones that initially inspired me are Michelangelo's Rebellious Slave. Which are, for lack of they're bizarrely erotic for their time. His bound figures, and I just think they're just wonderful pieces, and I was really captivated by them when I saw them initially a long time ago. And so then many years later, I was at the Yale. I'm from New Haven, Connecticut, and so the Yale Art Gallery was there, and at the Yale Art Gallery, they had. A Victorian statue called the Bound. Is it the Bound? Oh, I don't want to mess this up. No, they have a 19. And I'm totally blanking, and I'm embarrassed of that. A statue of a bound Christian woman who has been captured, and she's nude and she has chains. And there was this sort of almost like they were using it to. They were using it to kind of justify the nudity. And actually, when the sculpture traveled around, it came with a pamphlet that explained, considering the circumstances, why she had to be nude. And it's funny because from a sculptor's point of view, I don't need that explanation. And then there's another one. There's Erasmus Dal Palmer's White Captive, which is in the Metropolitan in New York City. That's the next one, kind of in that line. And then the final one that sort of really resonates with me is Princess Leia. And Princess Leia has been captured and bound in almost every movie, or all the originals at least. And I put all of those things kind of together, and that's what kind of informs my figures. And of course, when you look at Princess Leia, she's definitely, she overcomes, she gets out. usually she's rescued, but you know, there's some other flaws in that movie. But but I love.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. It's something that I didn't know actually, but I could definitely, can definitely feel it when I look at your amazing sculptures. Now I want to change the atmosphere, and this is the part that people love it on my show. As we made agreements, so I want you to grab your camera and please give us a tour around and show us what you're doing. Is there any project that you're working on? Please go for it. So there is an option as we practiced previously, so you can reverse the camera and just take us with you to your studio, but the other way. Yes, perfect.
So I'm going to start with something that I just finished because I have a special thing for you and for your show. This is a new work that I just finished, and I just finished doing the patinas on, and it has not been posted. So this is, it's sort of, I guess, sort of unveiling. There's been people who are following me would have seen the clay, but this is the bronze. So.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow.
I was working on the patinas yesterday, and I thought, you know, what a great thing to like, kind of, show your viewers. It might be kind of fun. Yeah. So,
what's the story behind that? So what is that sculpture?
So this is Pandora. It's sort of another, Greek story. Pandora unleashes things from Pandora's box, and lets things out. And then there's some, there's a sort of, an emotional quality that goes kind of along with that. And again, I think some of these stories are just so relevant to our contemporary lives in ways that we kind of wouldn't think about. So this is another one that's very popular. This is Ariadne. This is actually my artist test. Ariadne held the string for Theseus when Theseus goes into the labyrinth. And so she holds
Erik,
the string.
sorry, I'm interrupting you. Is there any more lights that you can turn on at your studio? Maybe? Or if you go to, okay, now I think the light is coming from another way.
Yeah, this one maybe if I kind of go
okay,
around.
Much better now. Yes,
yeah.
Now yes, perfect.
Yeah, I'll just show people. I have these very large fluorescent lights in my studio.
Okay, sorry, go on.
A lot of the finished ones are all there. And so going along there, this is Theseus and the Minotaur.
I love this one. I love this one. And tell me about this one. It's amazing.
So for me, the way I think of the story of Theseus and the Minotaur, it's my opinion that the Greeks didn't believe that there were men running around with with animal heads and different things like that. That these things are all metaphors. So like the centaur is a perfect example. Of course, if you watch Disney, you think that like people believe that there were men running around in the woods who had horse bodies. But my take is that any woman who's ever been to a college party has met a centaur. A centaur is a man who has far too much to drink and becomes an animal from the waist down. It's kind of simple. In my mind, the labyrinth is really just a metaphor for the human mind, right? And we go into the labyrinth in order to slay that which is deepest and darkest within us, and so every person's Minotaur would be something different. So this is me, confronting my Minotaur. It's not even like some epic, cool, like sci-fi battle. It's, what would it look like? And people always ask me why he's got a gun. He's got a gun because if I was going into my mind to fight the Minotaur, I wouldn't bring a sword. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. And the gun is very specific. It's like an old 38 special that like you got out of your dad's drawer that, it's kind of rusty and maybe 2 bullets that maybe might work. That would be my luck to go into battle with.
Well, that's amazing. Can you go to the other side of the statues? Sculpture. Sure. I want to see the details.
It's a little dark because of the.
Wow.
I like how so the horn is like, it's like kind of broken because he's kind of like busted, and my Minotaur is kind of, he's got big arms like he used to be strong in high school, but he's got like a beer gut, like he's just been sitting on the couch drinking beer for the past 20 years. Oh.
Wow.
Oh, there's my dog.
Hello.
These are some of my small gesture sketches. Right, these are the little tiny ones. So a lot of these are all little tiny ones.
Oh wow!
And these are just like little sketches. And then sometimes we get the little sketches cast in bronze. People really like these. These look nice in people's home because you can see by that, like my hand, they're a very intimate scale, right? So you can, they can go into a home pretty well. So. This is another one that people really like. This is Octopus Attack. This is one of my older works, but the full title is Octopus Attack: The Allegory of My Credit Card Debt.
Okay. So that's very interesting.
So
wow.
if you've ever been in credit card debt, you know that you like take care of 2 bills and you think you've got yourself, and then there's like 6 more just come and like attack you, like bang bang bang. So
it's always happened like that.
These are just some demo drawings from I teach at a small college, and so I teach a lot of drawing classes, and so these are just some demos from my classes. I don't really show too many of the drawings. In fact, actually, a little bit on my life here, you can see my sort of setup over here. I'm teaching, like most people in this crazy world we live in, I'm now an online instructor. So really simple, like getting started, how to draw boxes. This is something I would do on day 1 of my drawing 1 class. And so here I'm drawing boxes. Portrait.
Oh my God. Tell me. I love this one. Wow.
So being a veteran myself, I'm just kind of connected to some veteran issues, and I don't really like parades much. So a few years ago, I wanted to start doing something. So I came up with this project that I was going to do sculpt a veteran a year. And so on our Veterans Day, which is a holiday in here, we have a party, and I give the first casting to that person. And so I'm kind of trying to build up a collection of them. I only have a couple of them now because I didn't do one this past year because we had a baby and it got a little bit kind of crazy. So
right.
But this is a project I plan to do more of. So this is Sergeant Ronnie Leger. So he's somebody I met. More just sort of, my studio is just kind of filled with all these like kind of.
I love it. Go closer. I want to see all of them. Wow.
This is one I have a casting of. Her arm is broken off because it broke off in the casting process. It's just things in process. I have way too many projects, and my wife yells at me sometimes that I need to finish some of them.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you. Are you like okay, so obviously you answered my question. So you're one of those artists that is working on different projects at the same time?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to swing around here really kind of quick. Right now, these are all the sculptures that I actively have that I'm working on. So this one is going to have all these like little skulls at the bottom. So this is very much in process right now. That's probably about half done. This is a sculpture of my wife when she was pregnant just recently.
Wow.
This is the casting for her legs. So her leg will so in the bronze, that will be kind of all sort of there.
Wow.
This is something I started a very long time ago and haven't finished. It's a Minoan snake goddess.
Why? I love this one, Erik.
I sometimes something happens, and maybe just I do a lot of like kind of bigger production work and everything, and so my projects, sometimes when I run into a roadblock, they just go on hold. So, she's very contemporary because she's got these very contemporary shoes. And are you familiar with the Minoan snake goddess?
Yes and no. Yes, just very.
It's this very. They're these very famous. There's a bunch of them, but they're these very famous little ceramic figures. I believe they're all ceramic, and it's like a woman holding two snakes with like bare breasts, and like one of them has a cat on her head. They're super weird. And so with this one, I couldn't resolve the hair. In fact, over on the other side there's like 3 little heads that all go on this one, because I've sculpted the head on this 3 times, and I just can't figure out what the hair needs to be to go with these awesome snakes. And
wow, it's so powerful. I love that.
I like her face. I like the way her sort of face is starting to come out.
Why you haven't finished this one yet?
Because I just haven't resolved the hair yet. When I figure out the hair on this one, I will. And then this is one of the bound captives that you were talking about.
I love this one. I do love this one, actually. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, this is really fun. The back muscles and
muscles.
And you have a nice there's a really nice kind of symmetry that's going on here, but then the whole thing is asymmetrical. And so, and you get the one leg, and then this one partners with well, so look at that base. Right, so you see how that base looks? And then if we come over here, I don't know why this is on my table saw. But if we come over here, this one actually has an equal opposite base. And her arms will be down. So the one is the arms up, and then this one is going to be the arms down. And so this one has the left leg up and the right leg down, and the other one has the right leg up and the left leg down. And so they're meant to be 4. So the reason why I haven't finished these is because there's 2 males that go along with it. And this is kind of, you can see a little bit about how I start a sculpture. This is the beginning of the first male figure. I was just sort of blocking some stuff out. And the 2 male figures will be on these exact same bases. And then they'll be like in sort of a set of 4, male, male, female, female.
Wow.
Well, there's my dog again. And then probably the other one that I'm working on right now, one of the other ones I'm pretty excited about is this one.
Wow.
This is Little Birds, and I don't know where her bird is, but she's playing with a little dead bird that goes down here, but I don't see where I put the bird.
You've already made it, or?
I just had a sort of rough sculpt of the shape and size of it. But this is all sort of like still moving around and everything. So you see, like this, my tools. I'm normally a little bit cleaner than that, but times have been a little bit hectic.
I know.
So I was just sort of starting that. This is kind of fun. So you can see the curvature. This will be all much, but you're starting to see the back of the ribs, and then I count out. This is the right number of lower lumbar vertebrae. That will be back here, and then going into the sacrum and everything down here.
Wow.
Yeah. So, this is. So now we're getting into the kind of dirty side of my studio, which is, if you look way in the back there, like right over there, that's the life-size figure of Elizabeth Tabor, and we just finished making the mold. That's why it's a huge mess over there. And that is up at the foundry right now being cast, and should be, the unveiling of that will be in October 17th. So, but right now that's the clay left over. And these ones are kind of fun. This is Artemis.
I love this. Oh my God, look at that. It's holding the gun.
Well, it's another one. So Artemis lounges by the river, and a hunter comes along and accidentally sees her in the nude, and so she sicks her dogs on him, and so she's always shown with a bow and arrow, but that doesn't, when I've been walking through the woods and accidentally found somebody lounging there, they didn't have a bow and arrow. You know, they would have something like this. So. And this one's bronze.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't know. I have more stuff over here. There's a couple more figures. This was Tom. This was a first Cape Verdean state representative in Massachusetts. This is Princess Leia, which I haven't finished yet, as a bound captive. More sort of stuff. The first gesture sketch I did for Theseus and the Minotaur a long time ago.
Wow. The size of your sculpture is getting bigger and bigger. I can't see it actually. It's kind of process.
Yeah. I really like this figure. This was a quick sketch that I did for a demo, one that I'd love to finish someday.
Did you have a model for every single of your sculptures?
Oh yeah. Like that's a lot of people who live near me know that's on the Whaling Museum in New Bedford. There's a giant squid, and that I made many years ago, and that was the maquette, and this is all the facade of the museum. You know, stuff like that. Yeah, they're always. A lot of people know my bronze fisherman's monument. It's a family group. You can see this is the first like little model for making that. That's a random centaur. I don't know why he's there. This is a camel. There are many people who do this far better than I do, but I love one of my favorite things to do with students is to go to the zoo. There's nothing better than sculpting live at the zoo, and probably the best beside the fun and enjoyment of sculpting animals like this camel here. The best part is the little kids. Little kids come up to you when you're sculpting, and they're just so candid, and they will say, you know, if it's good, they'll tell you and they'll reward you. If it's not, they'll let you know.
Absolutely, they have no filters. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. You know, so you know, this is kind of interesting because the Elizabeth Tabor, the one that I've been working on, these are 3 different gesture sketches that I made for that, and you know, to present to the committee that I was working with. So yeah.
Amazing, Erik. Wow.
I'm gonna flip around, so I feel like I should talk to you.
Thank you so much. It was amazing tour. You really give it this shot. I really appreciate that. So, as you mentioned, as I know, and probably people know, you've been teaching for years. What is the first things usually you say to your students, and why?
What is the first thing I say? Well, any of my students will probably know. I'll probably give some lame baseball metaphor. That's probably the first thing I drop on them. But once they get past that, you know, what do I? You know,
what I'm trying to say is like that. For example, I'm a filmmaker. All right. So when I feel that someone who is not quite talented, or who is talented, but he's like, he doesn't know, he's quite vague, you know, and lost in his thoughts, I usually just being really direct to them, and then I will tell them why I'm being so direct to them. So my question for you is that, like, when somebody comes to you and wants to learn like how to about sculpture, so what do you usually say to your students? Like what I
think I have an answer that works for this. To be honest, I think that perseverance and stick-to-itiveness probably go farther than anything. I've seen a lot of people come through my program who have a lot of, you know, I don't usually like the word talent much, but you know, come through with a very high skill set, but they don't have a hard work ethic, and they won't do very well. Then I see other folks come through who maybe don't come with that high skill set, or have to work harder. And for those folks, they're the ones with the determination and the tenacity that do well. And one of the metaphors that I always use is this: if you're running in a race and you're behind, right? So if you're running in a race and you're behind, what do you have to do to catch up to get to the person who's winning the race? You have to start running faster. So okay, so you're running a marathon, right? And you get used to running faster and harder. What happens when you catch that person? Right by them, right? And that's what I see all the time. I teach at a small community college. You know, I work with a lot of folks who are starting out with less for whatever reasons, right? And I always tell them that they have to work harder. They have to work harder than that person that got into that elite school or you know, were able to you know, have something paid for, or whatever reason somebody might be ahead. But if you're behind, you have to work twice as hard. But know that when you get there, man, you're just going to keep going. You're just going to keep going. And I see it all the time. So that's what one of the things that I say to them.
Yeah, practice, and be more motivated. I get what you say.
I'll give you another one. If I could give you another one really quick. You know, most people, when they look at my work, they notice that I study a lot of anatomy, right? And I'm very interested in anatomy. And so sometimes I'll get students saying things like, you know, wow, you're lucky, you know, anatomy comes easy to you. And I always say it's not that, and it's not even that I studied it, you know, more. What it really is that anatomy was the thing that perplexed me the most. When I was young, I wanted to draw comic book superheroes, and I couldn't. I didn't know how to do it. And so over time, I've studied that thing that I understood the least. And in that process, just like the previous metaphor, at some point in time, I actually learned all of this stuff. But it really all comes down to, like for me, the serratus muscle, these muscles on the side that come down, I believe that those are the key to drawing an awesome superhero. Right? So you want to do a good Batman or Superman, it's all about these side muscles that kind of make it. And so those muscles were the ones that I want. And if you look at a lot of my sculptures, you'll see them in little tiny places because I sneak those things in all the time.
Absolutely. Erik, when I've said that I'm going to have a conversation with you, well, it's a very early time in Iran. So I know actually you've got lots of Iranian followers, and they should me their questions. And well, I've chosen one of them. So I came from a country where many prominent sculptors live. They cannot easily choose their subjects. For example, they cannot make a nude sculpture. They should be very creative, as they are struggling with censorship in Islamic countries. So they cannot like choose whatever they want. But, and it makes the situation even more difficult, and they have to be even more creative. Where you're living right now, there is not much censorship, but I'm sure there are sensitive subjects that you have to be careful if you want to make a sculpture of. I want to talk to me about the challenges that you may be like, maybe the things that you sometimes struggling with as a sculptor and as an artist in general.
Say that last part again.
I want to know, well, I've said like the first part, and I want to know actually if there, I'm sure there are things that you struggle as a sculptor, or can be very challenging for you. So I want you to talk to me about that. If it's regarding of the subject, if it's regarding of the censorship.
You're absolutely right. I don't deal with censorship issues in that same way. In fact, I do public nude, live nude figure demonstrations in my studio where the general public comes in. And it's very interesting that you bring up some of those points, because there was a video I posted a little while back, and got a lot of I got a lot of very positive. The feedback was polarized, but my son, who's was about 9 at the time, is sitting in the back, and the background, and he's reading a book. So there's a very beautiful nude model on the stand, and he's 9 or 10 years old, and he's just sitting in the back, more interested in reading a book. And so there were a lot of comments on the Insta feed about like, oh my God, how could you allow a kid to, my kids like have grown up around this, and they don't see much of that. My other one, who was an infant at the time, in that same video, is sitting on the couch with my wife, who's sitting there while I'm working. And so, in our world, we don't, in my world, and I mean that in the sense of like my little art bubble, in my little art bubble, this is just how you study the human form. That the reality is that you need to work from the nude model to understand anatomy. There's really just no two ways about it. When I sculpt a figure wearing a business suit, I sculpt that figure entirely in the nude, and then I apply clothing to them. Right? Whether you're a digital artist or you're, everybody does this work seriously, does it in that same way. You can't start with the pants. So if you want to know those things, you have to study that. Do they have to be nude figures? That's the way that in my tradition that we do that. But you could sculpt people at the beach, or
Yeah. No, that's very understandable. What I'm trying to get more from you is the challenging. Talk to me about the challenges that you struggle sometimes, probably as a sculptor,
my
as an
biggest
artist.
challenge. I don't struggle with the work. I remember being in graduate school, and so many people having conversations about not knowing what to make and these kinds of things. That's not something I suffer from. I suffer from not having enough time. A big struggle that I have is that as you can see by the amount of things I have going on, I have more ideas than I have time to make them. And,
right.
COVID and like I have a perfect storm of things happening right now, between, COVID-19, which has just made everything more difficult. Because of that, I also have an infant, well, he's a toddler now at home, which just, my children are more important to me than anything in the world. But, they get in the way of my making art sometimes.
Yeah.
and so I struggle with that. I want them to, go to school and go to daycare, and so that is a huge challenge for me. And what's happening to me right now is that I'm backlogging on ideas, because the idea generation, when I'm in the studio less, it almost seems like the idea generation is going into overdrive. So I'm coming up with way too much stuff, and I fear that I'm starting to lose some ideas because they're slipping away because I can't get them out, at fast enough. And so I think that all artists struggle with different kinds of things. I need a 28-hour day and an extra pair of hands. That's what I need. So
yeah, absolutely. Now I got it. Erik, I have to wrap it up. I loved my conversation with you. It was amazing having you here, and I'm glad it happened after a few months. And I love to see actually your work in the reality, and I love to meet you one day in the reality. So, and I'm glad I had an amazing conversation with you today. So, did you like our conversation?
Absolutely. This is great fun. And especially in this time when I don't have as many people coming to visit me. Being able to have this many people come into my studio, and both you and your audience come into my studio and get to talk about some of this stuff is just a wonderful. It's almost like a pressure relief for me to get some of this stuff out. So this has been hugely motivating, and I can't wait to get back to sculpting. I might stay after this conversation and do a little bit of work.
Of course. All right. Thank you so much, and appreciate that for your time.
Oh, thank you. I hope to see. I hope you come visit me someday. We'll do another interview. So. you're invited anytime.
I wish. Thank you. You take
Thank
care.
you.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.